An approval of variance to the ordinary high water level setback of the Buffalo River for a residence at 2666 28th Avenue South, Holly, Minnesota, 56549, parcel ID 13.016.4300 in part of the southeast quarter of the southwest quarter of the southeast quarter of section 16, Holly Township. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
Motion.
Motion made by Leo,
I'll second.
second by Travis. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Matt, you want to take it away?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is a request for a residential setback from the ordinary high water level of the Buffalo River. So this is located southwest of Holly, just on the south side of the Buffalo River, 20th Avenue, east of the landfill. The base zoning district on this property is agricultural general, and then also shoreland special protection rivers and streams. And there is a little bit of floodplain fringe. You can barely see it though. It's just barely touching the parcel there. So, and residential use are permitted in these zoning districts. So the variance is to the setbacks as laid out in table 8-5-1 of the Clay County Development Code. The request would be to reduce the 200-foot ordinary high water level setback about 36.5% to 127 feet for new residents. The practical difficulty that was provided by the applicant is that this is the same location that a previous residence was permitted in 1997. The location does have power, water, and septic, and doesn't want to encroach into the road setback. So you can see the setbacks here. That 127-foot setback is right here. 200 feet is right here. There is some buildable area between the road and this 200-foot setback as well. Pretty narrow band right there. It's about a little over an acre. One thing that the applicant and I have discussed is just the Buffalo River just being a pretty unstable river and building close to it. And one of the reasons why we have the 200-foot setback is for streams is some of these streams are very unstable. If you go further downstream on the Buffalo River, you have some areas, especially if you get north of Highway 10, where people are losing their backyards pretty rapid clip just because of bank slumping and things like that. I did go and look at some historic aerial imagery. If you're ever interested in looking at that, if you just type in Minnesota Historical Society aerial imagery into the Google machine, you can find some pretty interesting stuff there. Just images from like the 30s all the way back to 1939. I think they go, and just looking at it and looking at where the trees are, it doesn't look like this particular bend has moved that much. Not to say that it couldn't in the future. Just something to, whenever we consider these variance requests, setbacks to rivers, it's something to think about. The goals and objectives from our comprehensive plan that are relative to this or related to this request. The first one being to protect and enhance the health and vitality of Clay County surface waters, including lakes, rivers, and streams for the benefit and enjoyment of Clay County residents and visitors. Looking at this request relative to that goal, it's kind of the staff's opinion that a placement of a residence is not going to have an impact on surface water or quality to the Buffalo River. Really, the greater risk would be to the structure if erosion or bank slumping were to occur. And then also we have an objective to enforce shoreline regulations on Clay County lakes, rivers, and streams. And really, if all the criteria for granting variance are met for this request, it would be a permitted structure. Some suggested conditions for this request would be that the structure be placed no closer than 127 feet from the ordinary high water level of the Buffalo River, and that in shoreland, a septic system compliance check is required. And so if not compliant, an upgrade would be required. For building a house, he's going to have to get a septic permit anyway. and or a septic compliance check too as well for the existing system. So that's something that'll happen regardless. Any questions for me at all?
Has the township weighed in on this matter?
They have been notified of it, Holly Township, and haven't really said anything. We,
They have their own zoning.
yep. Assumed that a variance would be needed for, but they didn't say anything about a variance being required.
So another question, if you go back to that picture and scroll out with all the setbacks on it, that red shed in the road right away down there in the bottom corner, are they gonna need a variance for that or?
No, so when that shed was permitted, the setback interpretation was this was a local road, so it'd be 90 feet, basically local road. It's
Yeah.
basically dead ends.
Oh,
And so it'd be a 90-foot setback on that. The shed was not anymore, I don't believe. There's about 10 feet, there's a portion of it that was on the neighbor's property. They did a land swap to rectify that as well.
so what is the road setback, 90 feet or 125?
It was interpreted at the time as 90 feet, just being a local road.
But is it 125 currently or?
125 for township roads, 90 feet for local roads.
We're classifying this a local road?
Yeah, just essentially just a dead end road,
All right.
so.
Anybody else have any questions for Matt? Would the applicant like, are you got any questions?
Well, I just, does, you know, having the house that close or having any of, I'm just kind of curious to know whether or not there's any requirements for flood protection.
There, not at that location, so it's a pretty significant, elevation jump from the river to the top of the yard here. And that's a really good question though. And that it is not where they would be placing the house would not be in the floodplain fringe. So it would not be in the 100-year floodplain.
Then it'd be a little counterintuitive.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
Would the applicant like to come up and speak? You can come over here to the podium and state your name for the record. Yeah, come on up. State your name for the record, please.
Pete Nelson,
When did you purchase this property?
about 6 years ago.
And there's never been, you've only had a trailer house on it or a camper?
He took the trailer house off to sell it to me because he couldn't sell it with the trailer house on it because it was an old trailer house and the banks wouldn't loan. So the only way he could sell the property is to get rid of the trailer.
All right. And that's where you want to put a house roughly in that area where the trailer house was?
Yes, all the infrastructure is there, the power's there, the water's there, the drain field's there. And I talked to the county guy about the drain field and he seemed to be fine with it. And he was going to go out and check, but I haven't seen any paperwork on that.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions for the applicant?
The home site is where that trailer is. What's to the north of it?
Garage.
That's a garage.
Yep.
So it's
We're trying to figure out what that is.
the next variance deals with that.
Got it.
All right, thank you. Is there anybody in the audience that wants to speak on this matter? Anybody in the audience that wants to speak on this matter? One last time, anybody in the audience want to speak on this matter? Hearing none. Does anybody have any questions for Matt or the applicant before we close the public hearing? Do I have a motion to close the public hearing? Motion made by Tim,
I'll second.
second by Travis. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We will go through findings and facts. Number one, is granting the variance in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the Clay County Development Code?
Yes.
Two, is the request of the variance consistent with the Clay County Comprehensive Land Use Plan?
Yes.
Number three, does the applicant establish that there is practical difficulties in complying with the strict letter of the Clay County Development Code?
Yes.
Yes.
The applicant states that the location that has power, water, septic, and they do not want to encroach on the road setbacks. Number 4, do exceptional or extraordinary circumstances exist that apply to the property in question and that do not apply generally to other properties in the same zone or vicinity, resulting from lot size or shape, topography, or other circumstances over which the owners of the property have had no control or influence?
Yes.
Number 5, would the literal interpretations of the provisions of the Clay County Development Code deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same district under the terms of this ordinance?
Yes.
Yes.
6, is the variance being granted the minimum variance that would alleviate the practical difficulties?
Yes.
The structure could be placed to meet setback requirements, but alterations to the utilities and septic system would likely be required. 7, does the variance request meet below all criteria? No variance shall be granted where any of the following conditions are not met. Adequate sewage treatment system or water supply capability can be provided.
Yes.
The plight of the landowner or hardship is not due to circumstances created by the landowner. The variance would not allow a use that is not already allowed in the zoning district.
Yes.
The essential character of the locality would not alter, or there would not be a significant adverse effect on the surrounding properties.
Yes.
There would not be significant adverse effect on public health or safety.
Yes.
The variance does not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by this ordinance to owners of other land, structures, or buildings in the same district.
Yes.
And conditions, Matt, you have 2 conditions: structure may no closer than 127 feet from the ordinary high water level of the Buffalo River. And number 2, septic system compliance check required, upgrade required if system found to be out of compliance. Do I have a motion to approve the variance with both conditions?
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Leo,
Second.
by Travis. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Variance on the house is granted. Moving on to number 2, Peter and Deborah Nelson request for variance. The applicant is seeking approval of a variance to the ordinary high water level setback of the Buffalo River for a garage at 2666 28th Avenue South, Holly, Minnesota, parcel ID 13.016.4300, in part of the southeast quarter of the southwest quarter of the southeast quarter, section 16, Holly Township. Do I have a motion to to open the public hearing? Motion made by Tim,
A second.
second by Travis. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, Matt?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, this is a request for structure setback from the ordinary high water level of the Buffalo River. Parcel's the same, location's the same. Zoning districts haven't changed since the last hearing, so they're the same. The request, same as the previous one, but this is to reduce the 200-foot ordinary high water level setback 68.5 feet to 63 feet for an existing garage. This is an interesting one, similar to the house, in that the garage was permitted in 1999. The ordinary high water level setback stated on the permit application was a quarter mile. It's a little different than 63 feet. The applicant did not construct this garage. It was built by the prior owner. So what essentially is this makes it illegal non-conforming structure, basically because there was some fibbing that happened on the building permit application, should have been addressed when it was inspected. An illegal nonconformity can't be repaired or replaced if it's damaged. A legal nonconformity could. So this essentially would bring that into conformance with the code through this variance. So if something were to happen to this, or if he wanted to make substantial improvements to it, he could. So
But the foundation is.
Yeah.
One time.
So an example I like to give is my parents have a lake place in Hubbard County. It has a boathouse kind of right on the water, literally right on the water. It was built prior to any shoreland rules or shoreland ordinances. And if it were ever destroyed in a fire or anything like that, or fell into the lake, they could rebuild it exactly as it is. Now, if they had built that in post the shoreland rules coming into effect, they would not be able to do that. They'd likely have to try for a variance or relocate it or tear it down.
So if this does get knocked over, burned down, but it still has to follow the same footprint.
Yes.
You could make it twice as big.
No.
With approving it tonight.
You could put that as a condition too, if just,
Yeah.
so just with the shore impact zone is essentially, that's land that's located between the ordinary high water level of a public water and a line parallel to it at a setback of 50% of the structure setback. Usually development in here is severely limited. The Buffalo River has a 200-foot setback, so the shore impact zone is 100 feet from the ordinary high water level. And again, same potential issues with the Buffalo River and erosion and bank slumping and things like that. Also, related to our comprehensive plan goals and objectives, very similar to the house as well. Not really much of a risk to the water resource, more to the structure. And then if this variance is granted, it would be essentially a permitted structure. Because this would be an after the fact request, you can also use these criteria as in consideration of your decision-making process. One, if the construction was complete, it's been complete since 1999, or if there's similar structures in the area, there are garages in the area. If the benefit to the municipality of enforcement compared to the burden on the applicant, if compliance was required, and we did have opportunity to take enforcement action when the permitted structure was inspected. Probably was intentional by the prior owner just based on the building permit application, but again, this is not really the fault of the current landowner. Suggested conditions for this permit would be that the structure may be no closer than 63 feet from the ordinary high water level, and then again, septic system compliance check required.
Is there,
Any questions?
with the septic system, is there a setback to the river for something like that?
Yeah, it would be the same as a,
Is it 200 feet?
yes. And that was really kind of leaving that up to the discretion of the environmental health.
So if that does need to be replaced, he's gonna have to come back.
Septics could be a little bit different. If they need to be replaced, potentially, if they need to be upgraded or repaired,
Yeah,
no.
no?
No.
Could we waive that? Like, if it needs to be replaced and he puts it within that 200 feet, do we have can we do that tonight, saying he doesn't have to come back for another one of these if it has to be replaced
For a variance,
for variance?
yeah, you could put that as just a condition of the variance.
Variance? Because otherwise, if he does need to replace it, he's gonna have to come back here and delay his project another month or 2 months waiting for that.
Sure.
variance. I just,
You went
Mr.
through all
Chair?
those requirements that.
Our environmental health director is on here right now, so.
all right, yeah, yes.
Hi, Ken Severson here. Just wanted to mention I have gotten out and done the compliance inspection on this septic system. It is currently in compliance, so just wanted to make sure that that's out there for this meeting. I don't have it written up yet, but
All
just
right.
wanted to add that in there.
Does that take in consideration the size of house he plans on building?
It is currently for 3 bedrooms, yes.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Yep, thanks.
Clears that up.
Yep.
All right. Anybody else have any questions for Matt?
I'm still, so what exactly is this variance for? It's already here. Is it so if something happens to it, he can rebuild it? Is that the only reason for the variance?
Bring it into compliance.
Yep.
Bring it in, okay.
Yep.
Would he not be able to get a building permit without having the pieces on the property in compliance?
Yeah, that's likely
That's
too. Yeah.
right.
Those-
That's,
Yep.
you went through all the work of doing this and it wasn't, his fault per se.
Then going back to that bigger picture, there's another red building here. It looks like it's fenced off. Does that need to be in
My
compliance?
understanding is that's going to be moved.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah, that little red roof square. All right.
Yep.
I just don't want you to have to come back here again and again and again. Yeah. I guess I should have you come up to the microphone and otherwise Rita will be mad at me.
No, we decided to move it rather than pay the 2.25 or whatever to try for a variance for something that was obvious. And I put it there, that it was obviously too close. I put it in exactly the same spot that there was a building before. Right before I bought it, he got rid of that building and sold it too. So I just put this one in the same spot, but it was blatantly like 50 feet from the river. So we just decided to move it and got a building permit for that.
So talking about the house that you're building, it's about 3-bedroom. I mean, it's not bigger than 3 bedrooms, so that septic system stays in compliance.
There's just the two of us, so 3-bedroom would be ample. Is that the question?
That was a question.
Septic systems are built per size of the house. How many bedrooms?
Right.
Thank you for coming in. Does anybody else have any questions for him? Right. Does anybody in the audience want to speak on this matter? Anybody in the audience want to speak on this matter? One last time, anybody in the audience want to speak on this matter? Hearing none. Does anybody have any else questions for Matt or the applicant? Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion.
Motion made by Travis, second by Leo. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Public hearing is now closed. We'll go through findings and facts. Is granting the variance in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the Clay County Development Code?
Yes.
Number 2, is the requested variance consistent with the Clay County Comprehensive Land Use Plan?
Yes.
Number 3, does the applicant establish that there are practical difficulties in complying with the strict letter of the Clay County Development Code?
Yes.
The applicant states that the detached garage was built too close to the river prior to him purchasing the property. Number 4, do exceptional or extraordinary circumstances exist that apply to the property in question and that do not apply generally to the other properties in the same zone, vicinity, resulting in lot size, shape, topography, or other circumstances over which the owners of the property have had no control or influence?
Yes.
The previous landowner constructed the building too close to the river. 4, would the literal interpretations of the provisions of the Clay County Development Code deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same district under the terms of this ordinance?
Yes.
6, is the variance being granted the minimum variance that would alleviate the practical difficulties?
Yes.
The variance would allow the structure to remain as it is in current location, 63 feet from the ordinary high water level of the Buffalo River. 7, does the variance request meet all below criteria? No variance shall be granted where any of the following conditions are not met. Adequate sewage treatment system or water supply capability can be provided.
Yes.
The plight to the landowner or hardship is not due to circumstances created by the landowner.
Yes.
The variance would not allow a use that is not already allowed in the zoning district.
Yes.
The essential character of the locality would not be altered, or there would not be a significant adverse effect on the surrounding properties.
Yes.
There'd not be a significant adverse effect on public health or safety.
Yes.
The variance does not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by this ordinance to owners of other land, structures, or buildings in the same district.
Yes.
And Matt has 2 conditions. 1, would structure may not be any closer than 63 feet from the ordinary high water level of the Buffalo River, and 2, septic system compliance check required, which it sounds like that has already been done. Do I have a motion to approve the variance with the two conditions? With the conditions? Motion made by Tim,
A second.
second by Travis. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, variance granted. Moving on to public hearing number 3. Darren Nagetto? Negato? All right, Darren Negato. Request a variance. The applicant is seeking approval of a variance for a residential density standard of the Resource Protection Aggregate Overlay Zoning District to place a second residence in a quarter in part of the northeast quarter of the southeast quarter, section 13, Tansom Township. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Travis, second by Tim. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Public hearing is now open. Matt?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is a request for a second dwelling in a quarter in the Resource Protection Aggregate Overlay Zoning District. This is located in, properties located in Tansom Township, right on the border with Otter Tail County, southeast part of the county. The base zoning district is agricultural general, and then the overlay zoning district on this property is resource protection aggregate. And residential density in the resource protection aggregate district is limited to 1 dwelling per quarter or 40-acre tract. If it was just agricultural general, it would be 2, depending on what township you're in. So the applicant is seeking a variance from 8-5C-7A of the development code. That sets that residential density limit. The request is to create a new 5-acre residential lot for the applicant's children. Practical difficulty given is the age and health complications from injuries sustained while in service, and would like children to live close by just to help with activities of daily living. On this parcel, with the aggregate potential on this parcel. So this is based off of the whole aggregate resource protection aggregate zoning district is based off this project that's done by the DNR, where they do some field studies, they look at soils, they look at geology to determine where aggregates and sand and gravel might be found or have a high likelihood of being found. On this parcel, majority of it was determined, and the whole purpose of it is to protect the resource from overdevelopment, so we don't end up in a situation like in the South Metro of the Twin Cities, where they've built a bunch of residential subdivisions and everything. They've developed over their aggregate resources, and now aggregate's really expensive and hard to find and just more difficult to do future development. So there's about 6 3/4 acres of high gravel potential in this quarter. Also looking at wetlands, the National Wetland Inventory does indicate wetlands just in the southern part of this property. Nothing really here to the north. I did have a discussion about soils and septic on this property, and it's one of those things where the soils could either be really good, or there might be some issues that would require like a mound system or something like that. But there's a potential they could be very good for that. I did talk with our environmental health staff about that as well. The relative plan, comprehensive and transportation plan goals and objectives for this request. We do have a goal to recognize the importance of aggregate resources to Clay County and the region, and to implement policies and standards to ensure sound stewardship of these resources. And so I did kind of talk about this before, just reducing the potential for overdevelopment over these resources, but also for land use conflicts as well, just mainly with hauling of gravel and then noise from crushing and things like that in these areas. We also have a goal to provide opportunities for quality rural residential development in Clay County. One of those is to permit large lot non-farm residential development if a portion of the property is preserved or converted to a use that retains the real character of the land. It would meet this request would meet that objective. In to avoid or mitigate residential development on or near environmentally sensitive lands or lands with high quality natural resources. One thing I will say, just backing up here a little bit with aggregate potential, is I did just take a look at some of the well logs of wells in this area, and clay and sand, basically. Nothing further. That's basically what the well logs indicate, clay and sand. So nothing really in terms of gravel that I've seen. Not to say that there isn't any in this spot, but in the surrounding area and including the well that's existing on this property. We also have a goal to recognize the diversity of living and working arrangements in the unincorporated areas of Clay County. Kind of the response to that goal would be that family circumstances and situations may necessitate living arrangements not currently permitted by right in the development code. In this case, the need to protect aggregate resources from residential development should be balanced with the need to recognize family living circumstances due to age, health, and other unique situations. We do recognize these currently in our code by allowing for a temporary second dwelling to be used by a relative to be placed on a residential parcel. It's permitted as an interim use permit request, and that it would be allowable in this zoning district. This variance request would create a permanent residential parcel that could eventually be sold to a non-family member. So just want to point out that distinction as well. Any questions for me at all?
More of a comment.
Yes.
Once you put the setbacks off the property line and road right away for that gravel in that area, if you were going to mine that, that even brings that 6.5 acres down to even.
Yep.
Oh yeah, a couple acres.
Yeah, with your 100-foot property line setback and then your 200-foot road right away setback. Yep.
That knocks that 6.5 down to probably almost half that.
Yeah. The other thing too that should probably be mentioned is because the applicant owns the entire quarter.
Yeah.
It's really ultimately, if he ever wanted mining to happen, it'd be up to.
Yeah.
So.
Anybody have any questions for Matt? Would the applicant like to come up and speak on this matter, or state your name for the record?
My name's Darren Megato, and the only reason I'd never give up 5 acres, but the kids, they help me out a lot. I want to move over there. Like I said, I'm a disabled vet, and it ain't getting any easier.
Yep.
That's all I got to say, I guess.
Does anybody have any questions for the applicant?
Anybody doused the property?
Anybody what?
Check to see if there's water
There's got to be water. I got a well.
over farther down south.
Oh, no. We just surveyed it out.
You'll find water.
Yeah.
This is North Dakota.
Hey, I almost bought one that we found no streams or found nothing. So
That on the western part of the county?
yeah.
Yeah, that's very common. I think this well is like 85 feet deep and has a flow rate of 15 gallons per minute or something like that.
Well,
Hefty. Mine's 180 feet.
Yeah, if you go to the western part of the county, it can be a little trickier to find water.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
is there anybody else in the audience who want to speak on this matter? Anybody else in the audience want to speak on this matter? One last time, anybody else in the audience want to speak on this matter? Does anybody have any questions for Matt or the applicant at this time before we close the public hearing? Do you have a motion to close the public hearing? Motion made by Tim,
I'll second.
second by Travis. All in favor, single by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We'll go through findings and facts. Public hearing is now closed. Number 1 is granting the variance in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the Clay County Development Code.
Yes.
Yes.
Is the requested variance consistent with the Clay County Comprehensive Land Use Plan?
Yes.
Number 3, does the applicant establish that there are practical difficulties in the complying with the strict letter of the Clay County Development Code?
Yes.
Yes.
Practical difficulties provided by the applicant that is that he is aging and experiencing health complications from injuries sustained while in service. He would like his children to live closer and help with activities of daily living. Number 4, do exceptional or extraordinary circumstances exist that apply to the property in question that do not apply generally to the other properties in the same zone or vicinity, resulting from lot size or shape, topography, other circumstances over which the owners of the property have had no control or influence?
Yes.
Yes.
Number 5, would literal interpretations of the provisions of the Clay County Development Code deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same district under the terms of this ordinance?
Yes.
Number 6, is a variance being granted the minimum variance that would alleviate the practical difficulty?
Yes.
Number 7, does the variance request meet all below criteria? No variance shall be granted where any of the following conditions are not met. Adequate sewage treatment system or water supply capability can be provided. Plight to the landowner or hardship is not due to circumstances created by the landowner.
Yes.
The landowner has no control over the location of aggregate resources. C, the variance would not allow a use that is not already allowed in the zoning district.
Yes.
The essential character of the locality would not be altered, or there would not be a significant adverse effect on the surrounding properties.
Yes.
Residential density would be the same as the same base zoning district of the property if it was agricultural general, which allows 2 residents parcel per quarter. E, there would not be significant adverse effect on the public health or safety.
Yes.
Yes.
F, the variance does not confer an applicant any special privilege that is denied by this ordinance to owners of other lands, structure, or buildings in the same district.
Yes.
Yes.
And Matt has no conditions on this, and I don't feel that there is the need for any conditions on this. So do I have a motion to approve the variance?
Motion.
Motion made by Leo, second by Tim. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Variance is granted. You have any old business, Matt?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
Any new business?
No new business either.
All right. So a motion to close, yeah. Motion made by Tim,
A second.
second by Travis, all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.